In this section, we are going to begin talking about student reports. We'll look at the student goal setting worksheet and the student progress report. You'll see under map reports, you then click on student goal setting worksheet. You will find the student goal setting worksheet examples on page 16 of your reports book. You'll notice that it has a line to show the growth projection, a bar to show the actual growth. Over on the right hand side, the green indicates an area of strength and the yellow indicates an area of weakness. To view the student progress report, still on the map reports under your view reports and instructional resources, go down to where it says student progress report and you'll find a sample of this report on page 17 of your book. And this shows the student progress over the last few tests. If you were to, this one shows a full year. It shows the student RIT and the district RIT, and shows the growth and the growth projection and the percentile. If we had pulled this report after the fall test or the winter test, there would be a dotted line showing the expected growth of this student. Next, we're going to look at class reports. The class breakdown report, the learning continuum, which is the old Descartes, and the achievement status and growth report that many of you have used in the past, and I think most of you will use this year. To get to the class report, again under map reports, obviously just click on class report. Samples of these are on pages 2 and 3 of your book. The top of the class report has a summary showing the total students with valid growth scores, their mean RIT and median RIT, standard deviation from the lowest to the highest, what the district level mean RIT is, the number of students in this class at or above the district grade level mean RIT, the NWEA national mean RIT, and the number of students at or above that level. This slide just gives greater detail to show how the colors align. The goal area colors align with the number of students that were in each of the areas: low, low average, average, high, average, and high. We will now look at the class breakdown reports listed under map reports. This report is found on page 4 of your book. Over on the left, not shown here, but in the actual report, it is underlined, which means you can click on it to look at the strands for each one of these. This is the old RIT, class by RIT report, where it takes the students and breaks them into groups based on their RIT band. When you run this report by goal, not only can you click over under the goal column to break it down into the strands, but you can also click on each student and it will lead you to their individual learning continuum. This report is found on page 5 of your reports book. When you go to do the class breakdown by projected proficiency, found on a sample found on page 12, this disclaimer will come up telling you that because our state has used a new test this year, the proficiency alignment is not perhaps accurate and will probably change by the next year when we take our tests. When you open up the learning continuum, you have several options to choose from. You can group by topic, and when you do that, you have to then of course choose the topic. If you group by standard, then you have to choose which grade level you want standards for. And if you look at pages 6 through 11 of your reports book, it gives you samples of how they look different between the class view and the test view. As I mentioned earlier, the learning continuum is the same as the old Descartes, and you can look at it in a class view or a test view. Samples of these reports begin on page 6 of your reports book. So you see that it will group students by their wristbands to show the skills and concepts they are ready to learn. There are drop-down menus that allow you to get even more detail under each one of these strands. So you will choose the wristband to view a group of skills and concepts associated with that wristband. Notice the blue arrow at the top right because we are currently at the lowest wristband, but should you scroll to the right, then there'll also be a blue arrow on the left so that you can scroll right and left to get to the wristband that you want to look at. Unlike the old Descartes, where it was a book and you just got pages and pages and pages of things, now you can click on the drop-down menu, choose the wristband that you want, and then get the items for that strand listed for you. It will also, on the right-hand side, list the students who are in that wristband. So those were looking at the continuum from the class view. If you look at it from the test view, you get a little bit different information. When you first open the Achievement Summary and Growth Projection Report, the student list that's there will show the test date, and sometimes that's very important when you're doing research on a student to determine whether they tested within the window or not. Also, one thing I've neglected to mention prior to now is very important with these reports that you make sure you have selected the correct term. Like right now, when I go to pull up reports, it automatically defaults to summer. We don't test in the summer, so when I pull something up, there's nothing there. So make sure you are pulling up the correct test term. But on this growth projection report, it has for each student their growth projection and their projected RIT. And when you get to the end of the season, then it will show whether their growth projection was met, their growth index, whether they grew or lost. And it gives you then a good report to know how that class under that instructor has progressed in that subject for MAP. At the bottom of this growth report, there's a summary that gives how many students had a valid beginning and ending test scores, how many met or exceeded their projected RIT, what percent that was that met or exceeded their projected RIT, the overall percent of projected RIT met or exceeded, the count of students with valid spring test scores, the mean RIT, the median RIT, and the standard deviation. To get to your grade and school reports, you will go to Map Reports, Report Options, Grade Report. When you open the grade report, you'll see it looks very much like the class report, only now it reflects all the students in that particular grade for that subject. You will find a sample on page 20. The Student Growth Summary Report is a great report to pull to use to demonstrate how your school is doing overall with their growth. What this shows for each grade level on the bar is the mean growth for the grade level for your school. and the yellow diamond is what the projection was as to whether or not they have met that projected growth. It's quite one of those times when a picture is worth 1,000 words.